Welcome back to Tiny Grimes Games, and I'm here with another Flesh and Blood video, the second part of my series from beginner to pro. I'm definitely still firmly in the beginner side, but I thought it would be helpful to bring you just a very quick how to play Flesh and Blood. The goal here is in 5 minutes to learn the very basics. We're starting with the starter deck, Ira on Ira. We are intentionally using a simplified version. Normally there would be a whole series of equipment here on the left that would add more complexity and nuance to the game. So if after watching this video you're thinking, that game's too simplistic, it's not simplistic. I'm intentionally making it simplistic so that you can just get the very basics before in later videos we talk about some of the more advanced concepts and how the game plays out in its more fuller form. So essentially what we have here is we each have a character. They have 20 health. It's the green mark on the bottom. And our goal is to use our attacks to whittle their health down to 0 where we will win. Now if we look at each of our cards, they have attack values on them. So this one has in the bottom left a little lance, that's 3 attack. This one has 4 attack. And this one has 1 attack. And the way it works is you get 1 action per turn. Just 1. You get 1 singular play. 1 action, that is. But there's a catch. Many actions say go again on them. So for instance, if we attack with the edge of our item, we get to go again, which means exactly what it says. We get another action, we get another turn. Scar for a scar. If we have less green than our opponent, less health, we would get to go again. Bittering Thorns would say we get to go again just by attacking. So there's while there is only 1 action, a lot of times you can play decks that are going to string together more actions. Now some decks will just rely on that 1 action and they'll make a really, really strong play. This deck is all about making lots of actions. Alright, one of the coolest things about this game is that each of these cards, they're not just attacks. Even though this card says Ninja Action Attack. It's clearly an attack card with an attack value. It also has a defense value. All cards you can use as defense as well. So this has 2 defense. It also has, let's take a moment to look around. Do you see any lands anywhere? No. Do you see like a resource meter? No. Why? Because each cards are resources also. So this card pitches, we say, or discards for 2 resources, which is the 2 red dots in the upper left. And then in the upper right is its cost if you decide to play it. So in other words, cards are used for resources, they're used for attacking, they're used for defense. They are utterly critical to your gameplay. So we're going to say we're starting our turn with 4 cards. That is very rarely going to happen, and you'll see in a moment why. In order to do that, we'll say we took 5 health. We've gone from 20 to 15, but we are starting our turn, and we're trying to figure out how are we going to put this together. We have a bunch of these cards that say attack on them. These can be used for attacks. And this one costs 0, this one costs 1, this one costs 0. And this one has go again if our health total is less than theirs, and it is. Ours is 15 and theirs is 17. So we're going to play this card with go again, which means go again. It's an attack for 4, the value on the bottom left. Now our opponent has a choice here. I could take 4 damage, go to 13, be closer to death. I could use my cards which both can attack or block, and use one to block. Let's say our opponent says, I don't want to take any damage at all. I'm going to block for this shield value of 3 and this shield value of 2. And then let's say since we had go again, we were to attack again with this thing that's free. And it's only attack for 1, and they say, oh, I want to block that one for sure. And then we end up attacking again, and our opponent blocks again. And then our turn ends. You always draw up after your attack. So we would draw up to 4. It would go over to our opponent's turn. And look how many cards they have left in their hand. 0. They pretty much can't do anything. Their turn is over before it has even begun. And so that's why this game is so complicated and interesting. And trying to decide, am I even going to block? Am I going to take all that? How am I going to decide how I want to spend my resources? Not just for right now, but for my attack turn as well. So our opponent says, no, never mind, I'm not doing that. That's madness. You've attacked me for 4. That's annoying. I'll block it for 3, and I'll take 1. And then that's annoying, but I still have cards left, but I don't take all that damage. Our card did say go again, so we have another action. So we can look through here and say, we could do this attack for 1. It's kind of weak. What about this attack for 3 with go again? But we have to pay 1 for it. That's the upper right. So we look in our hand, and we see these 2 cards, and they each have a pitch value of 3, which is the upper left there. So head jab, we will just throw it into the pitch pile. We'll turn this die to 3 resources, and we're going to actually attack a second time here with Bittering Thorns. Bittering Thorns is interesting. It's only a 3 attack. It's not that amazing. But it says your next attack gets +1. Also, by the way, go again. Very critical. We're going to get another attack, and it's going to be +1 if this hits. And guess what? It's already +1 because of Ira. So now it's not just 3. It's 4. And again, our opponent is faced with this dilemma. Do I take 4? How many do I block? How many cards? How many resources of mine do I use to block it? And if I take it, then they're going to get +1 for the next attack. They have money. They have a go again, so they're going to be able to attack with their Edge of Autumn. What do I do here? So our opponent says, I will block it with exactly 4. It'll still leave me with a card in hand, but you won't get that bonus at least, so that's great. I did it. I stopped the attack. There's a catch, though. Whenever there is an attack, it starts with the attacker puts down their card, the defender puts down how many cards they want to defend with, and then something called the chain opens up. And it starts with the attacker, and they can play cards that say attack reaction. And so this card, frankly, is not very good. It's only +1 attack, but guess what? +1 is all we needed. We were 4 to 4. This will get us over the blocks and put us at 5. Our opponent hastily looks in their hand for a card called Defense Reaction, which would allow them to also play into the chain. They don't have one. This attack will resolve. We will be 3, plus our bonus from this guy is 4, plus this is 5. We do elementary school math. Our opponent has blocked for 2 shields plus 2 shields. We hit for exactly 1, which is not that great, right? We took him down to 15, but we also got that bonus off of this card, so our next attack is 1. We will pay 1 more resource that we had floating from our earlier pitch. This card says once per turn, action 1 attack, so we will spend that 1. We'll attack yet again. It's +1. It's attack for 2. And our opponent is looking at this and going, what? I'm not just going to toss this very good card and just lose everything and not even get a turn next turn. Instead, I will take that damage. They take 2. Our turn has finally ended, and that was a pretty good turn for us. We discard all our cards that we played. Oh, not our weapon. Our weapon goes back. The cards we played. Our opponent discards their cards. And then we, the attacker, get to draw up. And we get to feel pretty good about ourselves, right? And then the cards we pitched, interestingly enough, they actually go back underneath the deck, which is another one of the really interesting elements of this game that the deck actually will cycle through. And at the end of the game, if you've been paying close attention, you'll know what your opponent did. All right, it's now our opponent's turn to strike at us. But we're sitting here with 4 cards, right? And we've got a 2 defense, a 2 defense, a 2 defense, a 3 defense. Like, we're looking pretty good, and our opponent just has this 1 lonely card. So they're trying to figure out, what do I do here? Do I just throw this out? It costs 1 to attack, actually. Do they have resources? They don't. There's no mana in this game. They can't even play this card. They would have to pitch it. But guess what? There's another cool aspect of this game. At the end of your turn, you can take any 1 card in your hand and put in what's called the arsenal, which is this slot here, which is basically just saying, I have this card for later. I can play it at a later time. So while the hand size is only 4, after this person draws up, they'll technically have 5 in hand because they're going to have 4 in the arsenal, and 1 in the arsenal and 4 in hand. So we can see how blocking there cost them everything. They got to do nothing. So their whole turn is, I'll put this in the arsenal, and then I'll just draw 4 cards and be quite sad about my situation that I got to do nothing. And now the turn just comes right back to us, and we're like, okay, you did nothing. I get to continue doing my attacks, looking through my hand and figuring out, okay, looks like all these cards can pitch for 2. A lot of them cost 1. They have go again, so I could do something like, say, since this one doesn't have go again, it's not as valuable. So we'll toss that one. We'll get 2 points. we will attack with our Whirling Mist Blossom, which says if it hits, and it's the second one on the chain, in other words, the second attack of the turn in a row, I get to draw 2 cards. It's not, it's the first one, but that's okay. That costs us 1 to play. That's what the right-hand corner says. So we have attacked for 2, and now we're right back to where we started, where our opponent has to figure out, what am I going to do? Am I going to use all my great cards to defend again, or am I going to take even more damage to let it through and sort of flip it around? So that is essentially how you play Flesh and Blood. It is a back and forth game of trying to whittle down your opponent's hand so that they can't push as much damage onto you as you push onto them that turn. That is Flesh and Blood at its simplest. There are certainly other archetypes that are trying to blitz out more attacks, like this deck we saw attacks a lot. Some decks are trying to just get one massive attack. They're trying to find their spot and then slam you for like 12 at one sitting. There's all kinds of different ways to play, but in the end, what we're doing is you're taking one action a turn, attacking with it, and trying to push damage through. Now, like we saw, oftentimes you're going to have to go again and you get a second attack. But that is Flesh and Blood at its simplest. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions about gameplay or how this works, let me know. I'll be sure to try to answer them as best I can. And I'll see you next time on Tiny Grimes Games.